Good afternoon. Afternoon all, hope you are well. Good afternoon. Excuse me, making sure I'm coming through well. I'm currently in the market right now, scalping. I've had a good 2 days scalping. Unfortunately, just lost one this morning on AJ. But I took this AJ short on this candle here. If I get my pen up. On this candle here. What I usually like to do, if things don't go for me initially, I like to cut the trade. So I cut that quite quickly for a short loss. And I took this breakout on this 1 minute chart here. Basing structure, B wave, good accumulation, breakthrough. Now for me, with it's going, I kind of want this to continue. If this is doing what it does now, I'm happy to be out of that for a break-even trade. Like I said, with scalping, I want them to go immediately, and I'm not interested in staying around when things like this happen. So for me, the concept of that scalp, if this level didn't hold like it is right now, it would be over, right? So the actual premise that these highs are being held, remember this is scalping, this is kind of how I scalp, but the premise here of this level holding, right, changes the whole direction of the trade, because we want that trend continuation, which is why I moved my stop to break even and said, right, if I'm out, that's fine, no problem. I'll move on to the next one. So with my scalps, I'm usually quite fluid. If things don't, this was obviously going well at the start, but again, I needed a little bit more. Happy to move my stop to break even. Again, you're waiting for those kind of decent winners, big winners to get in there for my personal scalping. So with how this looks now, I'm not interested in keeping my stop here and potentially it coming down for a full loss. I'm okay just getting out of break even because, this now kind of looks precarious. And just waiting for that one, big winner that gets you quite a bit of profit. So if I show you gold, so I had a decent scalp in, actually I had a decent scalp in AJ, but I'll show you gold. Where's gold? Here. If I show you gold the other day, this was a really nice scalp down here. There we go. So in this 5 minute chart here, if we look at that basing pattern, we've got our A, B, C, bullish engulfer here. If I zoom in, it'll probably be easier to see. God, MT4, nightmare. Where's it going? Okay, I don't think I'll be able. Okay, I think it's this way. Okay, here we go. Sorry, here we go. So basing structure here. Nice ABC pattern as part of our handle, right? Perfect, great. A, B, C. Ahmed, how you doing, mate? Hope you're well. Thanks for coming. We had a bullish engulfer here at C wave. Push through that 20 period. Notice how that 20 period is curling upwards, indicating that trend is on the upside. Good hammer here, rejection of this 20 period, again on high volume. Push through. Good bullish bar here that didn't close above this level, which is good. That's what I like. All right, I wouldn't have been minded if you'd taken that breakout to the upside there. I didn't. I waited for that fake. We got our reload again back to that 20 and taking your breakout from this level. Now, if we look how that kind of what happened after that, we had a breakout, a retest, big bullish bar on the retest. That for me was a good sign, obviously. We had mullied around here for 10, 15 bars and then boom, moved to the upside. So that was a really good example of the power of this potential setup. Because if I hadn't said this was a 5 minute chart, right, you wouldn't have known. So what I do with these kind of setups, and I knew when, and that sounds bad, but I knew when I took that, this is going to be a winning trade because of how clean it is. Really nice, complex corrective, digesting this move, push up, close just before the level, another reload to that 20, and off we go to the upside. So I take a screen grab of this into my playbook, and just remembering that this is exactly what I look for with my cut with handle pattern. So that was a really nice scalp yesterday in gold. So if you look at that, you got about 4 or 5 hours out of it. Now remember, I am not primarily a scalper. Psychologically, that's quite difficult for me. But again, if you want to take a screen grab of that, if you do like the context, that is exactly for a cup with handle, that is exactly what you're looking for. So if this was a 4-hour chart, you'd take the breakout. Obviously on the 30-minute 1 hour, I couldn't take the breakout there because I would need a retest. But if this was a 4-hour chart, that is a perfect example of a cup with handle. Cup with handle within a cup with handle. And it just shows the power of that pattern, right? So when it does work, it really does go. So great example there in gold. And as I said, I've had 2 good days. I'm kind of back in the running for this 200 grand. I need a little bit more in order to increase my risk a little bit. So hopefully after this stream, again, I'm going to go in and try and pick a little bit more at the markets. With my personal scalping, like I said, if it's not going my way initially, I'm out, right? And I'm always trying to protect that capital because you just need the one, like that gold, like AJ yesterday, that goes quite immediately, that you'd make your money on. So I could lose 2, win 1, and make a lot of money, if that makes sense. Because I'm cutting my losses early. And that's difficult to do when you're scalping because, you don't want to cut loss early. So say, for example, this AJ trade, AJ scalp I just had on this 15-minute here. So I took the on here. As soon as I see this candle, even though my stop's up there, I'm out. Right? Because that is not what we want originally afterwards. If we had a decent bearish bar, then okay, I keep it in. But this is obviously indicating to me that this price wants to move up. So cutting it out immediately and reducing your risk, I think is probably the best option with scalping because, again, you're just looking for that 3-4 hour winner. And by reducing your risk on your losing trades, you make those winners a lot better. But I know that's difficult. So remember, if you are thinking about scalping, it is a difficult game. It's a very psychological game. I personally, I don't mind it. I have to say, not to toot my own horn here, but I'm quite a good scalper. I just don't like doing it with really large positions. So if I'm risking, my actual account, if I'm risking 4 grand a position, right, I don't want to be doing that on a 1-minute chart. Because you think you can lose $4,000 in 3 minutes. That for me is a bit too much to handle. What do I think about gold and the long run? I'll go through gold in a second, Ahmed. I'll go through gold in a second. But also, there you go. That's exactly why I cut it out. Look at that. So I've taken a break-even trade when I could have taken, a bigger loss. So again, just cutting out as soon as you see that shift in momentum on the smaller time frames, I think is a good sign or a good tactic. Okay, gold. How's everybody doing, by the way? Happy Friday. What we're doing for the weekend. How's everybody's trading going? Mine's getting a little bit better, certainly on the smaller time frames. I think that's the place to go right now. Like I said, sometimes I feel like it. I've felt the market this last few days and I've kind of gone in. I have to make 800 on a funded program I'm doing this month, and already I'm down to 50 with 18 days remaining. Any advice? So, Matanga, when I passed my first 100 grand, my first 100 grand challenge, right, I was down 6%. So, and also what I would tell you with these funded programs is always aim for the free repeat. Now, I don't know if you're on FTMO. Lam, how you doing? Sean, how you doing? Good to see you. Happy Friday. I don't know which program you're doing, but for me with FTMO, as long as you get a positive percentage, now that could be $1, you get a free repeat. So my ethos is always go for that free repeat, and if you get like a couple of percent up, then just go for it on the last remaining days, because 10% is difficult, right? But what I would definitely tell you, Matanga, is don't over risk. 18 days is a long time, and things can change so quickly. So quickly in one trade, things can change so quickly. And when I failed my challenges, I was always trying to pass it, right? So I'd go down and thinking, oh, okay, I've got to now make 15% or 20%. But, just go for that free repeat as long as you're with FTMO and you'll be okay. But 18 days is a long time. So just be patient. Don't force anything. That's the worst thing you can do, my opinion. Worst thing you can do. USD Swiss. Okay, I'll go through gold and USD Swiss. I don't have a lot on my watch list. I've got one quite nice trade on my watch list that I'll talk about as well. Gold. So gold I'm looking at on this 4-hour chart, right? We're obviously in retesting mode. Now, the difference with this retest that I feel is it kind of looks a bit bendy, right? Possibly the bend at the end of the trend. Whether that's the case or not, we'll have to wait and see. I tested this, what I call a rainbow pullback. So this kind of rainbow pullback. And a lot of the times it didn't actually work, so I've stopped using it. But that doesn't mean it's not going to work all the time. I like the idea of gold longs. You know, I like this context here. We just have to wait and see what happens roughly around this area. So we're kind of in retesting phase, Ahmed, in my personal opinion. You get a catalyst here, potentially a big engulfer. You could say continuation to the upside. The daily, okay, the daily, we've kind of had this doji bar, spinning top, whatever you want to call it, on that 200. So whether this comes down and creates our potential evening star pattern, we'll have to wait and see. I would, you know, you just have to wait until this area, Ahmed, for me. Let the market tell you what it wants to do. I just worry a little bit about this kind of bend here at the top of this area. So this looks great, but we're possibly losing momentum to the upside, in my personal opinion. But again, we have to see how the market reacts around that. What area is it? Roughly around this 1820, 1818 level. I think that's where you'll get the decision on what happens with gold moving forward, personally. But my bias is still to the upside. My bias is still to the upside on gold. USD Swiss. Okay, who asked for USD Swiss? Sean, USD Swiss. I mean, I fancy dollar strength. This doesn't look too bad on the 4-hour chart at this area. We get a breakup of here. I mean, we have had a slight hammer here on volume. You may get a little reaction because of that. But you could call this a head and shoulders, V reversal. If we break through this area, I can see the USD Swiss moving up. You know, I know we've had a bad day here, but we've kind of recovered from it. But whether we, again, this is whether we're in that corrective or not, we have to wait and see. In my personal opinion, remember, this is just my bias. If we break above here, then obviously we go to the upside. There is the possibility that we fail and we move back down because of, you know, we're still technically on a downtrend intraday. And if we put a Fibonacci onto it from the move, you know, we're roughly around this 50% area, which is where this resistance is. So yeah, break of resistance, you look to the upside. A fail of that resistance, you look for potential continuation to the downside. But as I said, my bias with this V reversal is probably upward movement. Euro AUD. Euro AUD. So how's everybody's trading week been? Has it been good? Has it been quiet? Have you been winning trades? Let me know. I hope you have been. Euro AUD lamb. Euro AUD. Originally, or on that daily chart, looks good for upside movement, right? Quasi kind of rising 3 pattern here, rising 3, big bullish bar, few bars in between, and another big bullish bar on that 20 period. You'd expect these kind of decent bars to be digested, you know, more often than not. If you have these kind of large moves, they kind of do need a few days digestion before they continue to the upside. And, you know, that's kind of what we got here. A big bar, a couple of days pullback, and another big bar. So, you know, we go down to the 4-hour chart. You look at this. Potential corrective here, moving on. I mean, you had a bearish bar here on the 4-hour. But, you know, I think upside is the way to go for Euro AUD. Hey, Aussie's got a little bit of strength this morning. I have to say, Aussie's got a decent bit of strength. You know, possibly you kind of... My favorite breaks of channels, right? So we broke the channel. My kind of favorite breaks is it when it goes like this and then goes to the upside. So if you see that kind of price action, I like that better than just, you know, motoring on from a channel break. So yeah, my bias on a daily for longer term is EA to the upside. Again, on these smaller time frames, just looks to be in a bit of a corrective. But yeah, bias EA to the upside. EuroCAD. Okay, I'm just going through all yours first. Okay, EuroCAD. EuroCAD, I was actually looking for potential fakes up at this area. But, you know, it's kind of, the price action is not too bad. You know, price action there is not too bad for, again, potential movement to the upside on these euro pairs. Commodity currencies are coming off a little bit. The daily chart on EuroCAD looks good for movement to the upside. For you, a good week. Well done, Ahmed. You seem to be having a good week all the time. Well done. Yeah, I mean, EuroCAD to the upside, right? For now. You just have to be wary for anything like this. So this is actually what I'm looking out for, is I kind of want EuroCAD to extend into this level so I can look for potential shorting opportunities up here. But at the moment, it's looking relatively healthy to the upside on EuroCAD. And going into that, one of my favorite pairs for today is this Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD 4-hour chart. Now this to me looks really nice. You know, we've got our cup with handle here. Again, a lot of mess, which is what I actually like to see. I like to see this kind of messy price action on these cup with handles. 20 period starting to come up. Crossed over that 200. Crossed over that 20. What I'm looking for now is that 20 period catch up. Couple of bars in here to take that to the upside. You know, I know there's a liquidity level here, but again, for my strategy, I'm not as concerned with that. I would consider orders to be filled and for a potential break here to the upside on Aussie CAD. We have got head and shoulders here, head and shoulders on the daily. And, you know, it is counter trend. Certainly is counter trend, obviously coming from this movement downside. But the potential for a change in trend is too good to miss that opportunity for me. So Aussie CAD to the upside. Again, I just need a little bit more digestion here. Let that 20 catch up to take that to the upside. So it's about being a little bit more patient and waiting for the setup to come to you rather than forcing anything. But for me today, that is certainly my main pick on possibly for a trade in the US session. I think need a few more 4 hours to get that going to the upside. Okay, index. I'll go into the index as I've not got into that. So SPX now, I said in the morning we were deciding at this area whether we want to continue to the downside or start to push on. Now, this resistance area has not held, okay? And we're kind of getting to the start of that big bearish bar. So for me, we've got to shift this into, you know, okay, I think possibly this downtrend is finished and we're moving back up to the upside. We need to push through this 200. We need a kind of strong bullish momentum here to kind of justify that and to be more confident in that regard. But it looks to me like this index wants to push, which is why you're potentially seeing that yen weaken off, that Swiss weaken off as well, as we go into a bit more of a risk on sentiment. But in terms of key levels, you know, for me and the SPX, if we get a break above this area, right, this kind of B wave or downtrend anchor, let's say, here, that would be a good sign for continuation to the upside on the SPX. So again, this looks quite good for upward movement. I think we're possibly out the territory of continuation to the downside, but we'll have to wait and see. Dollar's continuing in what we think. We're potentially getting our cup with handle pattern, having a little bit of a wobble here, but you know, from the 4-hour chart perspective, we're still making higher highs. We're still moving towards this level, and I think we continue on up into this 93.3, 93.4 level. My bias is still remaining the same, is that we get there and we have the decision to make at this point in time. So intraday for the next little while, potential kind of choppy action in the dollar. If we get a setup here as a cup with handle to take that break to the upside, yeah, certainly dollar strength. But unless we break this anchor here I would continue to buy that dollar on that 4-hour chart. So I'm not as worried about this bearish engulfer right now. It needs to break this area for me to change that potential direction from dollar bullishness to dollar bearishness. So I think possibly a Friday wobble, but eventually it should come back and get up to those areas, because at the end of the day, these resistance areas are kind of like magnets. You know, price is attracted to these areas, right? So you expect it to get up there, because there's a lot of clear air here between where we are and where we could be. How many pips do you target if you say I don't do that? I don't do that, Rohan. For me, whatever the trade is, I take the trade. You know, I don't really understand the going for 10, 20 pips a day, because I don't get it. It all depends on your stop loss, right? So for me, I don't target pips. You know, I just go about my trading. I take the setup when it comes, and I calculate my return on investment at the end of every month. So in terms of pips, no, I don't really do that. Other people do, but I don't. Can you suggest one best indicator to read charts? Best indicator to read charts. Depends what you're looking for, Sean. You know, there's loads of indicators out there. I mean, moving averages is an indicator. I would say, you know, moving averages is probably the best one for getting a visual guide for trends. Something that I like for trade management is the parabolic SAR. I think in terms of taking profits in your trade management side, so after you press buy or sell, the parabolic SAR is certainly, for me, probably the best one, I think. But there's lots. It depends on what you like, Sean. So for me, as you can see from my charts, I don't use many indicators. I've got 2 moving averages and volume. You know, I'm mainly a price action trader. I use the SAR in my scalping to try and get in and out and try and catch on to moves. But I think the best indicator is your eyes. You know, looking at what's happening, looking at the price action, going into the psychology of what's happening. So for me personally, price action is king. Indicators as well, they also kind of lag, right? They lag behind price action. But if I had to suggest the best indicator to read charts, it would be moving averages. You know, that gives you a complete visual guide on where the trend is going. But again, I do always think that using your eyes is the best indicator you can have. Okay, what else do I like? I like US 30. I like the Dow. I think I've got 2 more. So this Dow looks good intraday. We've got our head and shoulders, good reload, couple of bars here, 20 period pushing up. And what I'm looking for is a breakout retest of this area to move to the upside. Naked Forex. Yeah, I agree, Ahmed. I agree. The book's good as well. I actually haven't seen it. So I sometimes do like use hammers and engulfers on the daily chart for potential trend change trades. But yeah, trading with the absence of indicators. I also volume. You know, I have to say I use volume a lot. I think volume also is really good to find or really good to use. Anyway, US 30, break out of this area for a retest of this area to go long. And I actually like that setup, you know. I do like that. You know, the daily looks good. Had our V reversal in the daily. Corrective, push through. Looks like we've got price acceptance above this area. Yeah, for me, that US 30, it looks really nice. 4-hour looks good. You know, we've got our hammer candle here. Potentially, we've got our retest over. Pushing on to the upside. The SPX looks like it's pushing to the upside. And if you can get a retest of this area, I would take that long all day on the SPX. And I think that's it for me today. The other pairs that I've got, like the Nikkei and stuff, they won't be ready today. But like I said, I'm going into scalp and have some fun, hopefully take some money out the market. But I certainly would keep an eye on Aussie CAD, and I would keep an eye on the US 30. Those two look very nice for today. I have to say, they do look good today, and hopefully we get a setup in it. So, but remember, it is a Friday. Sometimes Fridays are a little bit like a Monday. But whatever you're trading, make sure that you're trading your strategy. Pound Aussie. Did you trade, I think you were in USD CAD, weren't you, Ahmed? Were you in USD CAD? I can't remember if you were talking about USD CAD to the upside. Pound Aussie to the upside as well. Yeah, I like the pound. Good 4-hour bar here. Potentially on smaller time frames, retesting or pulling back within that 40-60 box and movement to the upside. I like the idea of buying the pound. Also on this daily, I mean, you look at a daily where we've now broken out of this kind of longer range that we've been in. And not only have we broken out of it, we've kind of retested it and got our big bullish bar here on that retest. So could this be a significant, a bigger period of accumulation? I mean, could that be institutions loading up on this currency pair to take it higher? Potentially. You know, that potentially that could be a great trade to the upside. So yeah, pound Aussie longs. I think pound has a good month. I really do. I think, as I said on A1 Trading, I think the data from that European Championships will boost that economy a little bit and give the pound some momentum. And also with them easing COVID restrictions and all that, I think that's good for the pound. I really like that trade, Ahmed, from a fundamental perspective, right? From basic trend theory. So we've obviously got accumulation at the bottom and you get distribution at the top. So the idea of that is obviously institutions accumulating positions, right? Accumulating positions to take this up higher. Distribution, institutions distributing positions, potentially taking this lower, right? So in terms of that kind of theory, I really like pound Aussie to the upside. And it's kind of, again, you need some bit more momentum into it, but it kind of looks really good. But again, unfortunately for me, I can't take that. It's not part of my strategy, but I like that to the upside for a longer term play. Anyway, everyone, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. If you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button. Getting closer to that 100. So that is my first main goal. We've kind of grown. We've grown quite well. 92 subs in about a month and a half is great. You're sure Aussie Swiss? I think the Aussie is quite strong. I mean, from a daily perspective, yeah, that makes sense, right? Just digesting this move. So from a daily perspective, it makes sense. Do Ashwin? How you doing, Ashwin? Good to see you in here. From a daily perspective, yeah, I just have a feeling that potentially this Aussie comes off a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see. And if you look at this, Ahmed, right, look at this on the 30-minute, you're potentially getting, you know, a decent, you know, want to call that a head and shoulders, you want to talk cup with handle, corrective here prior to a break. If this shows at this point in time that it you know, there's an indicator that it wants to move up, you know, potentially catalyst to move to the upside, you know, Aussie could be in with a little bit of a boost to the upside. But I do think from a daily perspective, yeah, you've got to go with that trend. 20 now, crossing that 200. Obviously, we've had this big bearish bar, big hammer here. It's looking less like a corrective than, you know, certainly breaking out of it here. So from a longer term perspective, yeah, possibly. With the SPX where it is, I still don't like it. You know, I still don't like the SPX. I think something's coming, but intraday, you could get a boost in the Aussie Swiss. Anyway. Alright guys, that's me. I am away to film a YouTube video and I'm done looking at the charts for the week. So remember, trade safe. Don't lose all your money on a Friday. It's not what you want to do. And I'll see you all on Monday. Cheers everyone, thanks for coming. Trade safe. Peace.